1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Hello there. How you doing? Good morning. Good morning. And an hour looms large ahead of us to fill with, one would hope, interesting conversation and provocative thought. And, of course, because it's my show, incredible grounds for serious depression. Oh, I hope not. Hey, let me start on it. I have to say something on a story I would normally not talk about, but I am blown away by the courage of this man in Massachusetts who had a penis transplant. His courage, not in having the operation, his courage in wanting to go public shortly after it. I don't think he knows if this thing's going to work like he wants it to work, but he wanted to say, here it is, it's doable, because there are a lot of young men, this guy ain't that young, he's 63, young men, especially our soldiers. You know, when those IED go off, they do more than blow people's legs off. You got a lot of young men with their lives ahead of them who need a penis. And if you think the suicide rate in the military does not have that component feeding it, you know, you're out of your minds. I really appreciate this gentleman's guts, because we live in an infantile culture. And, of course, the minute the news went out that the first penis transplant in the United States had occurred, those creeps, those despicable creeps who live to torture people on the internet started having just a ball. Making fun, making jokes. And this guy's family, this guy's friends all said, there is no reason for you to go public. Nobody has to know about this. Think about that. Nobody has to know about this. It's true. He wanted it known. He wanted to plant that seed in other men's heads that you can do this. It's doable. I did it. Come on. We can do this. I think this guy is courageous as holy hell. I really do. And I just want to tip my hat to Thomas Manning, who lost his penis to cancer. And all I want to say. There's a picture of him in his hospital bed after the surgery, and he's going like this, you know. Any transplant is serious surgery. And he wanted specifically to combat the stigma. And the stigma is only there because we are an immature people. Why should there be a stigma? So I've been wanting to say that. Not like I want to talk about penis transplants, but I've been wanting to say that. Okay. Do we wade right in here? Do we? Oh, God. Okay. This from Bree, who is agreeing with me, something I said a few days ago. He says, it does seem the more media coverage Trump gets, negative or positive, the better for him. The negatives if Ronald Reagan was Teflon, I don't know what this guy is. Media, Bree writes, are in essence making him more prominent. They are, if you can do that, they are feeding the beast. They help make the beast, and of course they want to feed him. He's their baby. He is their ticket. I have a friend who works in media, who goes around the country dealing with television stations, blah, 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 blah. He has found more just thrilled executives of television stations all over this country who are making more money than they have ever made because of Donald Trump. They don't know what to do with all of it. Believe me, they won't share it with their employees. That we know. They'll continue to cut their salaries and lay off workers, which is what goes on. But they are making, what did he say? I think it was in the Tampa area. Some station owner told him that they are going to, just in this election cycle, in that community, bring in some $90 million in this because of the election. Now, stations always make a ton of money because of the political advertising, but because of the craziness that this one is, media ain't going to in any way be party to diminishing Donald Trump. Believe me, they're rolling in dough because of him. Bree says there was a movie called The Fifth Element, and in it this enemy thing was coming to Earth. And every time the enemy every time we launched missiles, Earth launched missiles to try to stop it, the thing simply grew. And this is a metaphor for what Bree sees. The New York Times doing this story about women thinking it would hurt him. Hadn't hurt him at all. They're doing publicity for him. His media may very well drown out the Clinton candidacy entirely. The more you come at him in that direct manner, the more you strengthen him. Margie reminds me that Trump is meeting, get this, imagine this, Trump is having a meeting today with Henry Kissinger. Henry Kissinger, who I cannot even imagine his distaste for Trump. For that matter, I have distaste for him, but whatever. We have a caller. Hang on. Hello. Hello.
Hey, Lynn, it's Mike. It's Mike from DC.
Hiya, Mike.
Hey, I've been meaning to ask you this question. So nobody I know watches TV. I don't watch TV, and I'm 50. So those commercials that they're spending billions of dollars on, who's watching?
Well,
Haven't those people already made up their mind?
No, I guess there's all those. Remember those people that decide elections? Remember those independents? There's more of them than ever before, and a lot of them watch TV. You might not. This is where we all live in our little bubbles. You don't, your friends don't, blah, blah, blah. Plenty of people watch TV. And these ads will be on the internet as well. You're not going to escape them. They'll be on the radio. They'll be on any form of communication. Yeah. And they're going to be ugly.
But when Nixon and Kennedy ran, there were only 3 channels, no internet. Everybody had to watch TV. I mean, that's all there was to do. But what percentage of the population watches TV? And of that percentage, what percentage hasn't already made up their mind? It just seems like an awful lot of money to get a small group of people.
But that small group might be the difference between a win and a loss. I think this is going to be a tight race, don't you?
Yeah, I think they're doing it because they don't know what else to do. But I don't think that's the way to get the population that you want to vote.
Well, look, the ratings, as you're saying, who's watching TV? The ratings for all of these news outlets on television are just skyrocketing, as well as their money. They are more and more people are watching because there's a show going on. It's called Trump. And people don't want to miss the show. What'd he say now? What's happening now? And when these conventions happen, good God. Americans were not watching conventions for years and years and years and years. These conventions will be the most watched conventions ever, I'm sure. Right? You'll watch TV then.
But I meant TV in general.
I know.
The number one TV show all across the country is Game of Thrones. It's on HBO.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have commercials.
Right.
There are no commercials on Netflix. There are no commercials on Showtime. The cable companies are scared to death because people are unplugging left and right.
Right.
And maybe that's not the demographic that they need to reach, but
I don't know.
It just seems like the diminishing return for the amount of money spent.
Well, you might be right that they aren't quite sure how to reach a younger electorate well, but you cannot discount older voters are the people who religiously vote. So their votes are every vote's important. And there's plenty, believe me, millions and millions and millions of people are still watching television with commercials, Mike. I mean, astonishing as it may be.
Even how they canvass now, they canvass differently. Before it used to be when you volunteered, you knocked on every door in the neighborhood. Now they know who the Democrats are, they know who voted, they know who skipped an election, and those are the people that are knocking on their doors.
Right.
So canvassing has gotten very specific, but television is going to just stay with one commercial after another, pounding the candidates.
Well, so it's a two-part strategy then. I mean, there is the ability now to go after niches and to have all this data so you know we got to go there. There's a potential voter in that house. Skip the next 2. There's a possible person here. You're right. They do know all that. I volunteered for the Obama campaign last time around to knock on doors. I was just stunned by the information I was given. It was amazing. Every house, I knew who lived there, how many people, voters registered, how many times they'd voted, where their leanings were. It's amazing. So yeah, they've got the capacity to be that targeted, but they're
going to just carpet bomb Pennsylvania.
But they need to do that too.
TV commercials.
They figure
that seems like a waste of money to me.
Well, listen, the money's there. The money's there. So they're going to spend it. And I'll tell you, TV stations are going to rake in tons of it. Whether you think that's a smart buy or not, that's still the case. Maybe in 4 years it won't be, and certainly in 16 years it won't be. I don't know. I mean, I understand your point totally, but I think this is going to be such an all-out, no-holds-barred battle that you don't discount any possibility, including all those old farts who are still sitting in their living rooms watching a few stations and sitting through commercials.
Is that why the evening news is getting earlier and earlier? When I was a kid, it was 11, and now it's 10 o'clock. Is it because all those people go to bed earlier?
No, because they're making money. I mean, here in Pittsburgh, we have a 4 o'clock local news, a 4:30, a 5, a 5:30, a 6, a 6:30, a 7. Somebody's got a 7. I forget which station. And that is because they know people watch at different times, and they just want to continue to cater to the audience, and news is a money generator. They wouldn't do it if they weren't making...
Because you only have to pay
a few
4 people.
Yeah, and there's more than that. I mean, there's photographers and editors and producers and all that, but you're right. They ain't paying them much. They are not paying them what they paid them when I was in the business. That business has seen such a shrinkage in what the anchors you look at in local news now aren't making what anchors made in 1995. Trust me. It's unbelievable.
Interesting.
Yeah, interesting indeed. My understanding is there's
thank God for HBO and Showtime, because when this commercial started, I'm never going to regular TV, period.
My understanding is that I don't think there's anyone over, maybe there's 1, 2, I don't know. Nobody, I believe, over at KDKA TV who even has a contract anymore. You always had a contract. The longer the better. You had a 3-year, a 5-year contract. You were golden. These stations now are not even engaging in making contracts with the people you see on your screen, because they can toss them out like that. It's a lot of very insecure employees you're seeing on your TV screens, I can assure you. These companies are despicable. They're going to make unbelievable amounts of money, and they keep telling their people, well, we'll keep you maybe for another year, but we're taking 20,000. I mean, it's just unbelievable. It's America. So anyway, get ready. You're going to get...
America.
Yeah, it's corporatized America, and when they took I was there when just a few corporations started globbing on to all the TV stations. There had been a regulation that you couldn't own more than this number. And, of course, that regulation went away because we don't like regulations. You got to let the capitalists do their thing. Well, they've done their thing. They've destroyed local news. They've destroyed television news, and it's not a great job as it appears to be anymore. Trust me. I got out just in time. Whew. So, that's it.
Okay. Thanks for the education.
Yes. Toodaloo.
Talk to you later.
Bye. Bye. Oh. Okay, so speaking of jobs and pay, I got 2 little tidbits here before we slog back into the swamp of presidential politics. Manufacturing jobs, we talk about, all those jobs gone. They provided a middle class good life for Americans. We thought, what? You had a car, a boat, anything you wanted. You were living good. It was on a high school education, right? Not too long ago. That's gone. But there are still manufacturing jobs in this country. Nowhere near what there were, but there are. But listen to this fact. 1/3 of American workers who hold a coveted manufacturing job now, who, if you ask them what they do, they'll say, I'm a machinist, or I'm a metal worker, I'm an assembler, I work on an assembly line. 1/3 of people who have those manufacturing jobs are still having to make use of a federal safety net program like food stamps. Now, that is simply a result of corporations refusing to share the wealth, of squeezing every last bit of dignity, of what, I mean, I don't know how anyone who's been in the working world in America in the last 30 years hasn't seen it personally, you know. Maybe you have to be in an industry that has really suffered these kind, but I don't, what industry hasn't? Certainly I've been in ones that have. Communications has totally, you know, been upended, media just upended, but so have so many. And what happens is, the only way the bosses say you can even have a job is if you work twice as hard and give us half as much back. Please, the money. Give us the money and work twice as hard. And that's how you destroy a middle class. It's as simple as that. Okay, so you wonder why Bernie Sanders has, and you wonder why Donald Trump has what they got. You can screw people. I actually have been astonished, as you know, at how much Americans tolerated getting screwed for decades and decades and decades before things seem to have now blown up. And look at how that's worked out for us. We are facing the possibility of a Donald Trump presidency. Truly. And so, while 1/3 of American workers who have coveted manufacturing jobs need food stamps to feed their families, just 25 people, I'm gonna suspect they're all white men, maybe not, but mostly, 25 highest paid hedge fund managers, people who don't do shit. They don't produce a goddamn thing. They're bettors and gamblers in three-piece suits, gamblers with other people's money. Great skill, really important, moving us forward and all that. The 25 highest paid hedge fund managers last year took home $13 billion. Do the division. I don't know. 25 into 13 billion. Aw, just a little short of $1 billion. They didn't quite make $1 billion in the year. Don't worry, you might do better this year. And guess what? Last year, hedge funds, they didn't do well. Last year, it was a losing year for the hedge fund industry as a whole. But, you know, and you know, if you're not angry about that, I think you're dead. I mean, how are you even, are you sentient? And here's something, front page Wall Street Journal today. It knocked my socks off. Listen to this. 2010. Graduates coming out of the University of Chicago, MBA program. That's up there. Male and female earned almost the same salaries coming out of the gate. Oh no, this was discovered in, no, this is in 2010 this study happened. Okay. They looked at these people who graduated in like 2000. Men and women, MBA, University of Chicago, get their jobs and they're making pretty much the same. Go back and find these people just 10 years later, 2010. And the women are making 57% of what their male counterparts are. They went from relative parity to 57%. Now, some of that is because the women have uteruses and wombs, right? And corporate America makes very little, does not, once a woman drops out even for a month or two, she's penalized. So, okay, that's the woman. Hey, anyone want a woman card? Anyone want a woman card? Really helps you. It always helps. Man, with a woman card, you can really go places. Okay. Oh, somebody has sent me a, this is for Mike who called. Leon has sent an interesting stat that the TV audience in America amounts to about half, a little over half of the population of the country. The TV audience is 187 million people. You don't discount those folks. So thank you for that. Look that up. Now, granted, some people are watching television in a different way where you control what you watch and you can't tolerate commercials like me. I'm always so freaked when I'm watching a movie and it breaks for a commercial. I go berserk. Okay, so let's, I mentioned Bernie and how his supporters are understandably buying what Bernie's saying. That the whole system, and when he talks about the system being rigged, he's talking about the capitalist system. He's talking about the economy and the establishment being, taking over, and the corruption of the control of every aspect of our institutions by moneyed interests. When Donald Trump talks about the system being rigged, he's talking about what? He's talking about a caucus somewhere. Believe me, he likes the way the system's rigged. He's a capitalist. It's one of the reasons you can damn well betcha he does not want anyone to see his tax returns. It's not so much that it'll show he ain't anywhere near as rich as he says he is, but you'll see how a rich man makes use of all of the tax loopholes that are in that huge tax, all the statutory thingamajigs about tax law. They're there for rich people. So, back to Sanders and this thing. Susan and I talked about it yesterday somewhat, about the Nevada Democratic convention that was, attempted to be held this last weekend and was so disrupted by Sanders supporters that security at the casino where it was being held shut it down. They were fearful of true chaos and violence occurring. It wasn't like the chair of the convention said, we're adjourned. No, its security came in and said, you guys, we're stopping this now. Stopping it. We want all of you to leave. Now, this is so unacceptable. When Trump's early rallies were so violent, and even when they weren't, there was that sort of that fear of violence right below the surface. I'm sure a lot of Democrats looked and thought, huh, Republicans. Well, guys, we got the same thing going on in our party. We have a divided party, and the part of the party that is not going to be victorious as we go to our convention in Philadelphia includes some people who clearly are intent, and now it's becoming rather clear, intent on disrupting the Democratic convention. So if you thought Cleveland, the Republican convention, was going to be a hell of a show, Philadelphia and the Democrats could likely be the same. Bernie Sanders is going to go in there with a ton of delegates. As many as 40% of the delegates on the floor are going to be Sanders people. Most of them will be respectable people who believe in, process and parliamentary order and all that kind of stuff, and some will not be, apparently. People who throw chairs at a meeting. People who then call the head of the convention and threaten her with death, and threaten her children, and threaten her grandchild, and then put out her address. People like that should have no standing whatsoever in a convention. The fact that Bernie has not more strongly denounced what occurred in Nevada is truly disappointing to me. Truly disappointing. And their only purpose now cannot be to win the nomination. They can't. There's no, numbers don't lie. There's no way. You even take away those disgusting superdelegates. Take them away from Hillary. She still wins. The win in Oregon last night. She gets almost as many delegates as he does. Now you can question why that is, but it's not a winner-take-all thing. And the same in Kentucky. It doesn't matter if she wins, he wins, whatever. They're going to split those delegates. He can't catch up. So, you're disappointed. God, I've been there. I back more losers than you can imagine. So I have been there. I have never imagined disrupting you don't go there. Therein lies anarchy. I mean, at some point you got to agree. And here's the other thing, the fact that these Sanders supporters are not helping Bernie right now. They're not helping him. They're hurting him. And they're not helping the Democratic Party, which I suspect some of them don't give a damn about anyway, because he's not a Democrat. And many of these supporters are not. And after this is over, a lot of those Bernie supporters are going to go home. They're not going to vote for Hillary Clinton. In fact, some of them, and Trump is actively courting them. I have the misfortune of following Trump on Twitter. And he goes after Bernie's people all the time. He's constantly putting his arm around Bernie and Bernie supporters and saying, boy, are you being mistreated. Boy, are that Hillary, blah, blah, blah. Come on over to me. Come on over to me. We got a lot in common, blah, blah, blah. And don't think that won't happen. So, You know, Barbara Boxer, Senator Barbara Boxer, was at this Nevada convention this weekend. She was the speaker. No one heard her speech. They shouted her down. They shouted her down. Now, some Bernie backers have condemned what they saw this weekend, and said that others need to step up and condemn it as well. But you know what? Bernie hasn't really. Not really. And Harry Reid pulled him aside, I guess, 2 days ago and said, "Hey, guy, come on, Bernie. I respect you. You know I do. We've worked fine together. You gotta do something. Do the right thing." He actually said, "Do the right thing and get a hold of your people." And Bernie did not. He came out and said something just so unbelievably tepid and absolutely, you have to understand these people are this, the blah, 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 making excuses for them. And Reid was flipped out. Couldn't believe it. So listen to some quotes from, these are Bernie Sanders people. She was on his staff, Elizabeth Arnold, on his staff until he had to lay a bunch of people off. But she's still right in the mix, and she's going to the convention. And she said this: "You are going to see a variety of tactics." Now, I personally don't like being arrested, but it's essential that we assert our First Amendment rights. So just actions will potentially end in arrest. Okay, now here's a Bernie person, and she's saying we're going to cause such a disturbance that we're probably going to get arrested. But our First Amendment rights is what we're standing on here. Hey, you, Elizabeth Arnold, where were the First Amendment rights of Barbara Boxer and of the other Democrats at that convention? In fact, the majority of Democrats at that Nevada convention who were supporting the other candidate. What about their First Amendment rights to be heard? She went on to say this: Clinton and the Democrats at the convention, quote, should worry about what is going to happen. All right, so now we're getting threats. We're getting threats from Bernie supporters. Here's another one, Nina Turner. She's a prominent surrogate for Bernie. Oh, she's out there. And part of his, more closed inner circle. She says, people are talking about the Republicans having a brokered convention. I think we're sleeping on the Democratic side. And if Democrats believe that that's not going to happen, meaning trouble, they're just badly mistaken. They've got blinders on. These are Sanders people speaking. This is not what conventions should be about. Even in 1968, the horror of that Democratic convention in Chicago, the delegates themselves were trying to do their job, although they were terribly divided. It was ugly inside, but it wasn't insane. It was the craziness outside and the overreaction of the Chicago cops that then infiltrated the convention hall, which led to all this. So these terrible trouble can get done. And here is another Bernie supporter. These are all women, by the way, that are talking like this. These are all women. Elizabeth, Nina. And now here is Roseanne. She says, we will be a significant force inside the convention and a significant force outside. The focus is going to be how disenfranchised the voters feel during this election, disenfranchised by the Democratic National Committee. So, let's just say this. It ain't going to be helpful to Hillary. It could well be that the Democratic convention is more raucous than the Republicans. The Republicans are already ahead of the Democrats in that they know they've acknowledged who their nominee is. The guys that lost, unlike Bernie, have all backed away. And so there's work going on now. Trump's meeting with Henry Kissinger today. There are efforts to pull Trump into the embrace of the Republican establishment he campaigned against and get control so that their convention actually runs maybe smoothly. And I predict that the Democratic convention might be a worse mess because the Democrats haven't even begun trying to heal the rifts that have occurred in this primary season, and in large part because Bernie Sanders will not step aside. He will not acknowledge. I mean, he has every right to keep going if he wants, but and I understand what he's trying to do. He's trying to rack up as many delegates as he can so that that Sanders vote on the floor, even though not a winning vote, will be loud and will be passionate. And every little stupid thing that comes up at that convention could conceivably become contentious. Every platform plank, every this. There's going to be, and Bernie has a lot to do with whatever happens at the Democratic convention. Caller, hello.
Hey, Lynn.
Hi.
I'm sick of the smugness and self-importance we have in this country. Everybody thinks they're the greatest person on earth.
Yeah.
I'm inspired by God to tell you everything, and if you don't agree with me, I'll just spit in your face and tell you how wrong and ignorant you are.
Well, we're a nation of narcissists. I mean, we have created...
We're just getting worse and worse.
Yeah, it seems that way.
It sickens me. And just to hear this from the left, from the right. Nobody's listening to each other, just all in their box screaming and shouting, including myself.
It's bad.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
Nobody listens to anybody anymore. Everybody just wants to override each other, go on the internet and bully each other. We're a bunch of bullies. And that's why Trump's everybody loves the man, because he's the biggest bully that you ever can imagine. And we're going to vote for the big bully who's going to kick everybody's ass and around the world, the Muslims, the gays, the Mexicans, the women.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, man. USA. USA. That's what we're going to do. Yeah. You got it.
All right, Lynn.
I hear you.
I'm I hate to hear all this stuff.
I know. But it's true.
You know, just in the bathroom issues. Everybody, there's this one little video, and it was super funny. It's like 2 minutes long. It was a person from the South who normally he sounds like he calls himself a redneck progressive, and he says it's a 2 minute video, and I can't believe how powerful it is.
Really?
Yeah, he talks well, for lack of a better word, like a redneck. He has a southern drawl, but he hammers the left. It's so funny. He just tells people basically what they are. Quit being so self-righteous and such mean to people. You know, the world is getting better in a lot of areas, and the right or the people that are currently in power don't like it, so they're just going to deride and make fun of anybody that's different than them, whether they be gay, transgender, different color, different religion. We just knock them down. We just smack them down. If you don't think like I think, then there must be something wrong with you, and you're not even very intelligent.
Right.
I'm going to show you how, if I can't beat you up physically, I'll just beat you up mentally, knock you on the ground and kick you.
All right, I
That's
hear
all.
you.
And if you don't like it, then I'll kick you again. So I don't know. Decorum and respect is gone. I guess, but that's not part of our.
No, we're not a particularly civilized nation anymore.
No,
we're
respectful.
Not.
That's the key word. I always tell people when anybody would listen, the whole key word in this, in my opinion, is respect. And we've lost respect for ourselves, for each other. We just think it's funny to just go around and tell people what we think. An example, and then I'll get off the phone here, is my wife's a nurse, and she had a patient come in, a mother and daughter team. The mother is 81 years old. And then you could just tell them that this lady's been like this all of her life. But she goes, "No, you know what? I'm 81 years old, and I can do whatever I want because of my age. And basically, if you don't like it, too bad."
God,
what do you say to the patient who's 81 years old who tells that to you?
Yeah, well, I can't stand old people who do that. I don't know where they think the cutoff is. But
what
there are a
do
lot
you
of.
think when you get older,
I've heard people like that.
Well, first of all, you know that's not something they just come up with when they're 81. They've been like this all their life.
Probably.
Now they just think they have an excuse to say, "I can be mean to you now." Why? Well, I'm 81 years old.
Right. They think
what the
age
hell
gives
is-
it. I know. I've heard it myself. Not from that one, but others. I can say whatever I want now. It's like they figure, what are you going to do to me? I'm sick of having, bitten my tongue all those years. Maybe older women more than older men, simply because older women of that age, were taught to bite their tongue and to, not say what they thought. So maybe that's.
But, what kind of example is that? And
it's
then, of
not
course,
a
the
good
daughter
example.
my wife said the daughter was the same way.
Yeah.
The mother and daughter team, you could just see, you could just look at them and tell that they're just unhappy, and they're gonna make your life unhappy.
Yeah.
So they're not happy till you're unhappy. That's the way a lot of people think in life.
Hell of a way to live, huh?
All right, Lynn.
Okay.
That's my little
Thank you.
rant for the day. Thank you, Lynn.
you. Bye-bye. Okay, this is from Beth. If I could do a doctorate today, my thesis would be, was the U.S. middle class nothing more than a propaganda tool during the Cold War, making it seem that all could prosper under the capitalistic model? A chicken in every pot, a car in every garage. The middle class has gone on a decline ever since the communist East Bloc fell. I understand that technology has something to do with the decline during the same period, but considering the increasing pay gap between those at the top and those at the bottom in various industries, I think there's something to this thing that they only behaved themselves during the Cold War to show that capitalism was a better system than communism. And now that the commies aren't there anymore and you don't have to do the charade, right? You screw the workers like you fully intended to. It just amazes me that some people think it's a mindset. Capital is necessary. The money they have is necessary for there to, be industry and growth and stuff like that. They're right when they say, well, we create jobs, right? But they create jobs because the capitalists, cannot realize their vision, their wealth, without the other part of the puzzle, which is labor. Workers. Workers would be in trouble without the guys with the capital. The guys with the capital would be without workers. And there used to be an understanding that it took both these things, the capital and the labor, to create wealth. And then the sense that because you both were important, you needed to share that wealth with some equanimity. And now there are so many people in this country who for some reason think that the guys with the money are the only ones worthy of getting the gain from the labor of the workers, and that the workers shouldn't see that coming back to them in a fair and equitable manner. It's amazing. It takes two. So there are people who act like it's only labor that does it, and people who act like it's only capital, and you're both wrong. It takes both, obviously. I have a call. Hello.
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 Clarence Canonsburg.
Did you send me that video?
I just sent you the video link, but that's not what I'm talking about.
Okay.
I wasn't planning on calling until you said capitalists create jobs.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of those little word things that I tend to correct.
Yeah.
They provide jobs. What creates jobs is the demand. I just had this argument with somebody arguing, about Obama and, but these people are the job creators. I'm like, no, they're not. They're the job providers. Demand creates jobs. And I said the only thing that I know of, only entity that I know that can create a demand out of nothing is the government. They say, we need roads and bridges. Now, there's a demand. If there's not a demand for something, there's no job for it. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But what I'm saying still stands. It takes
both. Oh, yeah, that's absolutely right. It's just that little word. That, hey, we're the job creators. I was like, no, you're not. What's his name? Remember Harold from Baldwin?
Yes.
When he said, we can create jobs by, just saying, making a factory of buggy whips and throwing them in the river.
But there won't be any demand.
Yeah, there's no demand for it.
Right.
But that's the kind of thing. That really bugs me because it's one of those buzzwords. They're the job creators. No, they're not. They're making themselves sound more important than they actually are.
Right. And they do not deserve all of the gain.
Yeah.
Which is what they think. They look at labor, as a necessary evil, I think.
You should have heard this argument. I had like three guys on me. I'm just standing there, not believing that these guys believe this stuff. One guy said, isn't socialism and communism the same? I went, no. Who are you people? And these are wealthy people. One's upper middle class, and one I would consider wealthy. He's in the 1%.
Well, it doesn't mean he's well educated.
Exactly. Well, he inherited his money.
Yeah.
But I was absolutely surprised. He said, "Well, what about the job creators?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
Like, there's a business. I'm like, they don't create jobs. They provide jobs. Demand creates the job. And then we went on to the thing. I said, well, at what point do these, job providers, the demand goes down so low because nobody can afford to buy their products or services? Do we start paying people more money?
Well, that's the absurd thing that, friggin' Henry Ford figured out over 100 years ago. If you don't pay your workers enough so they can buy the very product they're producing, then you're an idiot. And so he raised wages for those assembly line workers. And today, they don't get that. They don't get it. I think what happened was, this was something I came up, thought of after I argued with these guys, was, it's obviously globalization. If you made $5 off of one person, you know what I mean? Now you can make $5 off of 10 people. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? You can sell your stuff all over the world. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So you can pay Americans less, if you get my point, because you're paying. Well, because the labor pool.
Yeah,
right. The labor pool. There's, my God, you don't have to pay a worker in another place as much. So why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
give them that.
But then they try
job.
to sell the products here to people who just don't have the money.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's what happened with, like, Americans were still trying to live that lifestyle on less money,
Right.
and the whole credit market fell apart.
That's true, too.
Yeah.
Americans got used to, being able to have that disposable income. And now, if you see, like, the statistics on how many Americans in the baby boom generation, which is aging rapidly, have absolutely no retirement fund.
Mm-hmm.
What is that going to mean? You're going to have what? A bunch of 90-year-old homeless people on the street?
That's when they were talking. I brought that up to these guys, and I said, there's an idea out there called the guaranteed income, where everybody, even you super rich guy, gets a certain amount of money per month. And they said, well, who's going to pay with that? I'm like, you. I said, the people need to live, and they need, with no savings, technology, you know what I mean, less jobs out there, and more people,
Right.
I said, they're just going to need money, so you just give it to them. Go buy some stuff. We got to keep this economy going.
Unbelievable.
Yeah,
Yeah,
to me, that's the future. Just a guaranteed income. People just get money.
well, we'll be the last country to do that.
Oh, we'll be the absolute last country to do it.
It's already being considered in other countries. I was told the other day that Sweden had something like that on their ballot, and they actually turned it down. Something
That's
like
because
it was a pretty big hunk of change too, for every person.
Yeah, people don't realize the interconnectedness between themselves, and other people. For some reason, you got to work for your money. You got to work hard, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, and all that kind of good crap. Yeah, but if I don't have any money to spend, how am I going to buy your goods and services?
Yeah,
You know?
it's so simple,
Yeah.
and yet it is elusive. To we get back to that thing. People want to believe in that the way they perceive the world is, and we all try to order the world in some manner that makes sense to us. And if you come in with troublesome, pesky little thoughts that could take their whole world view down, they simply will not hear it. So I mean,
Very
I don't.
true.
Yeah, you should stop wasting your.
It's just like
energy.
the whole bathroom thing.
Oh, please.
It's like, dude, well, they're going to do this. No. Here's statistics. Here's this. Here's that. Here's that. No.
No, they can't hear it.
They can't hear it. That's
No.
why I tell people this is like telling adults that there is no Santa Claus when you bring in ideas that they just never considered before,
Right.
and messes with their worldview.
Right.
And then you get a President Trump.
Do you think he's going to win?
No. Well, once again, I said that about George W. Bush. I told my friend, he said, I'm never listening to you again. I said, nobody's going to vote for this idiot.
Yeah, see, those of us on the our end have, I said that about Reagan, I said that about W, and I certainly said it about him when he ran for re-election. And
I was 8.
Wrong. So I don't say that about Trump, and
I'm not saying it either.
No, and I do think he can win. I'm sorry, I think he can. And the more I see this playing out, and with the Bernie people fucking things up more, I'm. You know what? If I could spontaneously combust. Sometime in November, I really could.
I said somebody when I was talking. These are I'm talking to like 3 conservative guys, and they're all Trump supporters. And one guy is pseudo cum laude from Princeton, and so.
Well, he's got money to protect, and that's all he can think.
Exactly.
Of.
So,
he's selfish. He's a selfish asshole. Okay.
Well, if you know him, that's
With
a
his
pretty good
Princeton.
description of him.
Okay.
But just real quick, and they said, well, what are you going to do if Trump wins? I was like, continue my life. I said, I'm not going to freak out like you guys did when Obama won.
Well, I might.
America's been through some stuff. I said, so, if I have to take 4 or 8 years of Trump, I could deal with it.
Well, let's hope, and let's hope.
I said, what I'm going to try to do is get to the 1%. I want to join you guys.
Lots of luck, Clarence. All right, you.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Shit. No, I don't. You can think you're going to go on about your life if there's a Trump. But I don't know. You know, all of this reminds me of this great quote. There's nothing more American than standing firm and resolute in the face of rational thought. Yeah. So I went to have a manicure yesterday, and this lovely young woman was doing it. And she was speaking to another woman in a language I did not understand. I assumed was Vietnamese. And I asked her, I said, is that Vietnamese? She said, yes. And I said, when did you come to this country? Surprised that there'd still be young people like this coming, because she's young and she had an accent. Her English was not great. And she said, last year. I said, you came from... Okay, that surprised me. And then I said, where did you come with your family? She said, no, I came alone. I said, well, so is your family still in Vietnam? She says, well, yes, they're in Hanoi. And I'm thinking, Hanoi? That's North Vietnam. I'm always thinking all the Vietnamese in this country are from South Vietnam, right? Not only was this young girl from Hanoi, she actually was not born in Vietnam. She was born in, get this, Moscow. So she's from a family from North Vietnam in Hanoi that her father did business with Russia. And she was born in Moscow. Her family has since returned to Hanoi, and she decided she wanted to go to the United States. Lovely, bright young woman learning English now. She knows Russian. She knows Vietnamese. 23 years old, and she was asking me about the election. And she said, this Trump? I said, yeah. She said, he can't win, can he? I said, he can. She said, very scared. She was terrified. I said, well, you should be, and so should the whole world be. I said, so you're not a citizen yet, huh? And she said, no, I'm not. I said, too bad, because we need your vote. We need every vote. And she said, I will do what I can. Meaning she would talk to people who had votes or whatever. Here's a 23-year-old immigrant to this country. And she said, why are the American people so, and she said, stupid? Because she said, I heard some people think if you're blonde, you're stupid. I said, that's just a saying, that you're blonde is stupid. I said, that's idiotic. And she said, and we had this, I thought, really interesting conversation. But these assumptions we make. Here's a Vietnamese person who was on the other side of our war there. She was in Hanoi. Her family was in Moscow, okay? Now she wants to come to the United States. And she's lovely. This world is complicated. I said to her, I am sorry. I just want to say, as an American, I'm sorry for what we did. She said, it wasn't your fault. It was your government. I said, we've been talking about an election with Trump possibly becoming the president of the head of our government. I said, and that was the same in the 60s. The American people put in place and kept in place governments that continued to wage this ridiculous, awful war in your country. And we lost. As well we should have. God, what a world. Anyway, that's it for me. I am so done. I am so done. Go, Pens! And screw those Tampa jerks who won't even let a Pens jersey in their damn... I mean, what a bunch of wusses. God, I hate them. We got to beat these guys. Got to beat them. Got to beat them. Got to beat them. Got to beat them. Go Pips.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.